everyone, and welcome back to the Mixed Colloquium panel series. Today's topic is transitioning from flat media to extended reality. Thank you all for joining us here and watching it online. My name is Yenny, and I'll be your moderator today. As someone who transitioned from flat media to extended reality, I found the shift both challenging and fascinating. I have a background in video production. I do a lot of motion graphics design. I also do some on-site production work. And the way that XR changes how we design stuff, or like design the narrative or spatial awareness, just make me want to explore the shift more deeply. And I'm really excited to have creators from different fields share the experience with us today. Let's start with a bit of context. When we talk about flat media, we're referring to media like photography, film, animation, or like graphic design, which are some formats that present in a 2D, constrained to a screen, papers, or some flat surfaces. We're using the term flat media here intentionally to emphasize the contrast with extended reality, unlike terms like traditional media, which can suggest older or pre-digital forms. The term flat media includes both classic and digital forms that share these characteristics. For extended reality, it's an umbrella term that describe in immersive technologies that blend the physical and digital realities. As you can all see, we have some VR headsets in the space. So extended reality include virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality. When we think of extended reality, a lot of people associate it with interactivity. While a lot of them do incorporate interactivity, it is not a defining feature. When we're talking about XR or immersive technology in our discussion, we are referring to experiences that integrate virtual objects into physical environments, and they can be interactive and non-interactive. For example, like a 360-degree film or a digital installation, they can be completely non-interactive, but still very immersive. Extended reality presents a new frontier in design and storytelling and over an environment for the audience to explore freely. This change has created a lot of changes in workflow and skills. So today we'll dive into how different creators from different flat media backgrounds are going to adapt their skills, workflow, and design process for the use in extended reality. Hopefully, our discussion is going to shed light on some unique challenges and opportunities XR presents. Before we dive into questions, let's go around and have each of our panelists introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Faith Popov. I'm a second year in the XRT program at ASU Mix Center. I have a background in film. That is what I have my bachelor's degree in. And I just love how engaging film is, how it can really pull you in and be very powerful. And I think for me, I really wanted to get into this space because I wanted to see how I can push that engagement and that connection to the material further. And I think XR was like the perfect way for me to incorporate, my background in film with, this new medium, especially because my focus was in post-production, so editing, so I already have a little bit of a technical background, which was helpful in transitioning to XR.
Hello everyone, my name is Smith Tarpara. I am a XR creator and post-production artist. I have a background in script writing, production and post-production. And the thing is, I want to explore XR because I can leverage some of my previous skills to use that skill into XR and do the same content or more unexplored content that are immersive and interactive.
Hello everyone, my name is Zhisheng Wang and I found the XRT program and my background was a graphic design, so I hope to expand my career and boundary, not just limit to the two-dimension in the future. So I want to do more challenging for the 3D stuff designing. So also it can help me finding get into the digital marketing in the future. So that's the one of the reason I like to explore the XR program more.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Leung. I'm currently pursuing a master's in experience design here at the Mix Center. My undergrad was in animation. I did minors in Japanese and psychology. I've been working in the realm of XR since 2021, so around 3.5 years. I do 3D modeling, VFX, and animation. Right now, I mostly do like project management and technical supervision for ASU Next Lab.
Hello, my name is Hajin, and I'm in experience design program. With my background in psychology and human factors like human-centered design, I've been always interested in how the interaction between people and their environments shape the meaningful experience. So I believe that there are more opportunities with XR technology to understand how people perceive and construct their own experience.
Thank you for the introductions. Let's begin with our first question. So in flat media, creators usually have control over what the audience sees and how they interpret the narrative. But in extended reality, the audience have more freedom to explore the space and look at whatever they want to look at. And this might have created some challenges for designers. I'm wondering how this shift has impacted your design process when creating immersive medias, in particular storytelling and spatial awareness. Faith, you have a film production background. Do you want to start by sharing your experience in films?
Yeah, so especially coming from an editing background, the main part of that, honestly, is to trick the audience, like cut things together in a way that, either hides something you didn't want to see or maybe do a cool transition. And you have a lot of control in post-production, but as Yanni said, with these immersive experiences, you still have ultimate control about what people see and what they do, but people by nature are very curious, and for, I guess, lack of better phrasing, they are going to try and break what you made, especially if it is an interactive thing, because people want to see and like push the boundaries, push how far they can go. So you have to be hyper aware of that intention, which in film you don't have to, because there's really not much way that people can alter like a typical flat media. So I just think you really have to have that in mind, that you have to basically just be very hyper aware of what's in there and what's not. Because if you have something in there and you're like, no one's gonna notice that, they're gonna try and notice it, they're gonna try and find it. So yeah, just be aware.
So, shift to XR has fundamentally changed my storytelling approach. As myself, I am a scriptwriter when I started this career. After that, I have done some film production and post production work, and based on that, to understand this shift, I will have to compare to usage of XR to the traditional style of filmmaking. Like in traditional or established style of filmmaking, I could control every shot, every angle, and every moment. Like meaning I could direct the end result. But in XR, it's completely opposite. Like in XR, the audience become active participants rather than the passive spectators. So this shift require change in the narrative structure. And based on the screenwriting perspective, I would say rethinking the linear plots and focus more on world building and layered narratives rather than a single directional approach.
So I think like the in graphic design we always limit on the two-dimensional design, and like we usually to in graphic design we usually to like rely on the layout on some method to create a space for the people how they feel into like the imaginary sense of a space. And for example, we had the grill line on the in the poster design, we had a grill line on the bottom and to the top and string to the top. So people will get the attention from the bottom to the top to get the information they want. So in contrast, XR space is like more focused on the like some virtual products, so they make people like more feel surrounding. And I think the space is not fixed anymore. It's according to people, the position and behavior will be changed when what they do in the XR immersive when they do it. So also I think the graphic is like the interact in the graphic design is like kind of less. People can click the button and turn on the page to like the get to the thing they want. But in the XR, the people is like they have freely choice to the thing they want to do in the immersive experience. So I think that's maybe the difference.
That's a good point. I do agree that in graphic design, you know how designers usually rely a lot on those traditional composition rules like grids, symmetry, stuff like that, and in extended reality because the audience can look wherever they want. So these rules might not still apply or might have to be approached from a new angle. Elizabeth, since you were an animation major in your undergrad, do you want to share your views from an animation perspective?
Yeah, sure. Actually, really similar to what Faith said. Animation can be applied to in films, video games, or also XR. So whenever I make an animation or whenever I'm shooting, there's usually a camera, and you have a perfectly curated shot where you set up all the lighting for one flat surface. So that is probably the biggest difference between going from flat media to XR is it's set for a perfect shot at one point of time. And versus in XR, it's like a 360 angle setup. So like you can actually like walk around and look at things. So it's a lot easier to see mistakes if there are any in an XR experience because it might not be lit correctly. Maybe from the back it looks wrong. So you have to make sure that the lighting is correct on all angles. And also the audience focus is honed in on like a screen versus they're actually in an immersive experience and they're looking at everything. So that's probably the biggest difference. And also finding the right people to work with when you're storytelling is really important. Sometimes like the plot can get lost in like all the stuff that's happening. Like there's lighting, there's sound, there's all this stuff that's happening around. So like actually like making sure that the story comes through even though all these different things are happening is really important. Yeah.
Thank you. Hajin, while your background isn't specifically in flat media, your expertise in human factors and industrial design over a unique perspective, I'm wondering how this like user-centered design standpoint would view XR and like the change in the design process.
So, so to answer this question, I think I need to mention about the user agency. And in XR experience, user agency refers that the sense users feel that they have a control and autonomy over their action and decision making in the XR experience. And it's since the user have a lot of freedom of 3D space, it's important to maintain the balance between the proper degree of agency and guided storytelling. And as a designer's perspective, it's essential to guide the users along the storyline while ensuring they believe their actions are made of their free will. And these approaches keep the users engaged and immersed as they feel they are active participants in the experience, not just following the determined path.
That's really helpful. I do agree that designing experiences that naturally guide the users to explore the environment without forcing them to have to focus on a particular point is very important because poor navigation design can lead to disorientation or confusion, and people might just lose interest. And this is also something we don't really have to worry about in flat media design because we somehow control what they would be focusing on by not showing them what we don't want them to focus on. Building on that, let's talk about skills. How have you adapted your skills from flat media to extended reality? Because, you know, the transition from flat media to extended reality, we need to reapply or rethink our existing skills. Anyone want to start first?
This is the best time for me to answer this question because, like, in my other classes, we were asked to make a prototype of any XR project that we like. So I was exploring a option where I could take something from my previous experience and turn it into XR just to see what kind of differences in between two mediums. So as I mentioned, like I was a script writer. I have published two audio series. So I was thinking to take two or three specific scenes from my audio series and turn it into a virtual environment scenes, just to see what kind of differences does it make with the same meaning out of it. And as I mentioned about my previous experience as a script writer, I have to write a script for audio series. For that, I won't have any visuals for that. So I have to assume before, like how my story would be heard as people listens. I cannot write anything that I like. So I have to concentrate on audience engagement. And in XR, I think that is the most valuable skill as to make a content development, as how audience will engage to our content and what is the meaning out of it. Another skill that I can add here as adapted from flat media to XR is an audio, yes. So that I was doing a voiceover for many audio series. So I know how to guide audience attention with my voice. And in flat media, it's one layered, like it's straightforward or one directional. But in XR, it's multi-layered, or I should say it's a 360-degree environment. So if there is a specific scene in virtual environment and I want to guide my audience to go to specific place, so I know how to make audio cues because of my previous experience. So these two skill, I should say it's a transferable skill from my previous experience to the XR.
So as I think the to predict the in graphic design to predict the kind of like the customer like how they the emotional response and the behavior path is also important in XR because I think like we in graphic design we turn to like guiding the people like how they to look at the design or something and also we consider how let the people to have the emotional response on the this work like for example we usually like we're doing some color like red color we will like people think about like the violin and some blood stuff also we can use be in the XR program in the XR project so also like in other hand like for example in the XR the kind of one of a game like the VR escape room game if we set up one of a door in the room the people when they walk in they will think about oh okay I'm gonna get a key but if they cannot find a key they will like feeling upset and frustrated also like if they realize the keys cannot be found or broken so they will maybe find another path to exit to the room. So they in that time they will realize the key the door is maybe not the only way to exit. So it kind of like we try to predict the user's behavior to finish all the like the game or something. That's one thing I want to mention.
In terms of skills for flat media and XR, I work in sort of like a project management space. So like it's really interesting because animation and VFX studios compared to XR studios work really similar in terms of pipeline and flow. So I think like collaboration with other people has been a big existing skill for me because I've been working in the same things already, and a lot of my work that I do in animation also applies to XR. It's so similar, and like everything fits really well within each other. I feel like the biggest thing is your mindset when you're transitioning. It's sort of like when you're transitioning from like a 2D like art illustration to making 3D art. For example, like if math, I'll make like a little example here. So like from algebra to geometry to like calculus, like algebra would be like 2D art, and then you go to geometry, you start learning like 3D. You start like thinking about things a little bit differently. So I think that's the biggest thing is your mindset changes as you develop your skills. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a very similar experience to Elizabeth because as a film background, it is like there is actually a lot of overlap. But actually, when I first got into the space, unlike animation, where you're already working with these kind of softwares, I was working with live action media, physical cameras, with real life actors on the screen, and so going into the XR space, I was really nervous because even though I had an editing background, I always envisioned film as a more artistic endeavor versus XR as a more technical endeavor. And I was really nervous that I wouldn't have like the technical skills to be successful in this side. But honestly, like ultimately, kind of what Elizabeth said, they're almost one and the same. Like the ultimate goal is to tell the story you want to tell, get the message across that you want to get, and you're just using different ways to do that between traditional flat media and XR. So while they do seem very different, they're really not. Like it's one and the same essentially.
Yeah. So in the transition from flat media to XR, so one thing never changes is the target of the design, which usually is human, but what changed is the context. So creating the XR experience is more complex, and it could lead the designers into the challenges or confusions. But my background, psychology and human factors, makes me maintain the mindset to return to core questions like what this experience is for or who is serving it. So this mindset makes me not lose the sight of designing experience that are meaningful and human-centric. Also, my background, psychology, allowed me to anticipate how users interact with the virtual environment. And this knowledge helps in constructing experience that align with natural human behavior, making the interactions feel more intuitive and engaging.
It's so nice to hear that foundational skills continue to be valuable in the new space, but some of them has to be approached from a new angle. I particularly like what Hajin has mentioned, the questions that she asked herself when designing. It's what is it for, and who is it serving? I think these are some really important points to think about, so it keeps our design meaningful and it is going to be a good user experience. Now let's talk about the practical side of the transition. What are some changes in workflow? Who wants to start first?
I can start. So honestly, the biggest change in workflow that I've noticed it hasn't been like software or hardware or anything like that. It's honestly time and time management, because from a background of film, film has been around for over 100 years. Film as we know it first started in the late 1800s. And, over the course of 100 years, people have been able to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And they've been able to, write that knowledge down and share it with others, either through print or, when the internet came around, forums and all that. But in this new space, even though some of these softwares have been around for a while, you're still gonna run into issues, and you're still gonna have to problem solve and troubleshoot. And when I first got into editing, like I remember, like if I ran into an issue with the software I was using, or I was trying to achieve a desired effect, it was as simple as just like Googling what I wanted or what was going on, and there was basically an answer right away. But with these new technologies and, pushing this field forward, that, knowledge that like isn't as vast as film. Those answers aren't going to be readily available for you like it would be in film. And so either you're going to have to figure out what you want to do, you have to figure out how to solve the problem yourself, or you're going to have to change what you're doing, and all of that requires time. So yeah, my biggest change in workflow has just been I've had to train myself to like budget more time than I have had in the past, because when I first got into this space, I severely underestimated the technical problems I would run into.
So I think the biggest change is like the team of the size. Like we need a lot of different background from the different area, the people who work with the XR project. Because in graphic design, usually like the people, just a couple of people can finish the project. The project size are gonna be like really simple. So also, but in the XR, we need to like get the 3D model and the programmer, like kind of couple of a lot of people to cooperate together. So I think it's also is really challenging thing to like cooperate to the different background people together, and that's what I think.
In XR, from my previous experience, I think the workflow is multidisciplinary rather than a single subject. Like you have to manage multiple aspects of the project at a single time, rather than something reserved for the final stages. That is like usual in the traditional media. Like in traditional media, is production is divided into three well-defined stages, like pre-production, production, and post-production. Each have its distinct task to complete with to get to the final output. But in XR, these three stages often blends together because of this unique immersiveness demand. And I think the testing has become an ongoing part of this process. And another thing, significant change is incorporating haptic elements, interactive audio, spatial audio into the virtual environment. And I think emerging game engines like Unreal and Unity have become more essential just to bring those environment into the reality, and because they allow to bring together 3D assets, interactivity, and testing all in one place.
I'll go next. Really similar to what Joshung was saying, from flat media, you can work by yourself a lot of the time, right? But with XR, you have to work with other people. You have to collaborate. You have to talk to people. And also for software, there's so much software that is involved. I know Schmidt mentioned some of them, like Unreal Engine, Unity. There's also Touch Designer, Maya, Blender, Houdini, a lot of softwares that are used within the production pipeline, which makes it a lot more elongated in the process. And then you also have an output, so outputs to one of these headsets probably. And I think one of the largest examples of XR experiences are music, concerts, and raves. Those are like huge. And you also have your smaller experiences like VR and XR. So I feel like in XR, it's a lot like you're prepping for a party and you're the host and you have to deal with all these things like sound, lighting, how are people feeling in the mood for, blah, 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 like stuff like that. So yeah, a lot more equipment and people and just everything involved.
Yeah, I have similar opinion with others. So I think some of significant changes is like collaboration and role integration. So in film media, each role like designer, editor, photographers can work independently and assemble their work pieces for the final result. But creating the XR experience is more like collaborative process. So I think in these interactions, it involves the understanding and coordinating with the work of others to create the immersive experience.
That's really helpful. It sounds like XR production requires quite a bit more in terms of collaboration and time. Like what Smith has mentioned, in flat media, people usually work in a linear sequence. Like people will come up with an idea, they talk to designers, and then designers would pass their materials to the editors. But in extended reality, people are working a lot more closer throughout the whole process. Sometimes most of the time, it will be simultaneous collaboration. As for time, because there are going to be a lot more prototyping or testing, especially when the experience is interactive. People will be doing a lot of testing in terms of like how the audience is engaging with the experiences, or like is the interaction like intuitive, or is it like it looks smooth. And so these are some key areas when talking about the changes in workflow. To close our main discussion, what are some practical steps would you suggest for people who start shifting from flat media to extended reality to address the challenges or maybe the opportunities that it presents?
Okay. So, like, if you don't have any XR experience, I recommend trying different XR experiences. But if you already have experience and want to deepen understanding, then it would be better to learn about Unity or Unreal. So by learning that how virtual environments are built, you can reflect your existing skills into the new medium. And this exploration could lead you to insight that how different disciplines are integrated into the XR experience. And another thing is that it's crucial to stay updated with the latest technology trend. So as a rise of various AI tools, it's becoming easier to create 3D assets or sound elements using AI. So you can explore other roles using the AI, and with this approach, you can gain better understanding and empathy of different roles.
So I was using the Adobe family all the time when I was in undergrad. So and I shift to like the XR. I would suggest like usually I still remember like the first time I used about like 3D stuff is like the Adobe Dimension. I was using like the one of the project was try to mock out the can designs. So I designed a 2D flat medium and just like graphic stuff, and I put into the Adobe Dimension, and they can ultimately to mock up on the KN design. Also, in the future, I use to like the 2D graphic to like mock up some food truck, like after that, I transfer like from the Adobe Dimension and put the stuff to the Adobe Arrow. So to show the like the user or customer like, how they like, looks like when they play around with the AR stuff, and they can look around the what kind of like design detail on the like the food truck or cans. So that's one of the experience I have in the like when I was in undergrad. I was like, and I know the like 3D stuff after this.
From my experience, like it depends on what kind of XR stages each person is interested in or wants to learn, because there are many different branches within XR. But if I want to answer in more general sense, I would say learn some basic software, like many of the software named in this discussion. But yeah, learn Unity, Unreal Touch Designer, Houdini, and get some knowledge about how to incorporate spatial audio and audio production into the virtual environment. just try to see the traditional storytelling arc into the different medium rather than just audio and visual.
Yeah, I think the best advice I could probably give is to start simple. I think a lot of people, they get, very excited. They get very jazzed to use these technologies and use these softwares, and they think single-handedly they're going to make the next AAA experience, which is a great goal to aspire to. But when you're first starting out, you need to start simple. Whether that's be just figuring out how to put a sphere in a scene or change the color of it or how to animate it. Because if you try and jump off the deep end, you're going to get intimidated by the software and by the whole process, and you're going to give up. And I feel like there's a lot of creative people out there that don't know that they're creative because they get overwhelmed and then they quit. So I think best advice is start simple.
It's funny because I have the opposing view from Faith. One of my inner life mantras is to just learn everything. I guess sort of similar. Don't be afraid to learn. Just go for it. But yeah, of course, start simple. Start with one thing and work your way up. There's so much software to learn. So yeah, focus on one thing and then just keep going. Just keep going. Once you learn one thing, it just builds off of the other. And there's so many roles involved in XR. You could do audio production Smith, or there's so much 3D modeling. You could learn how to code. And there's a lot of odd jobs that require immersive, that require people that know how to do immersive experiences. You'll find them. There's a lot of weird ones. And I think the big thing is talk to people. We're a really small community. We're still growing. Future tech is such. We're small, so if you know someone and you meet up with them, you'll probably see them 2-3 years down the line and be like, hey, I know you. And speaking of that, there's a lot of conferences that you can also go to meet like-minded people. There's AMC SIGGRAPH, which is the Computer Graphics Conference. There's also MIT Reality Hack, which I know is happening in January, I think, and also Games for Change. So there's a lot of different things that you can do to meet new people and do more things. And my last tip can be applied to life. Just keep your doors open. Don't shut any of them, Don't close yourself off. If there's an opportunity that rises and you think it's good for you, just go for it. So, yeah.
It seems like experimentation and learning new softwares and what Elizabeth has said, talk to people, might seem some key areas for us to start with when we're shifting from flat media to extended reality. I remember when I first started designing in extended reality, I began with learning Unreal Engine, and I found it really helpful because gaining proficiency in the software or the tool gives you a sense of what is possible and help you identify what you want to focus more on. And so I think learning software is definitely a good way to start. So now we'll open the floor for questions from the audience. If you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand. And if you are watching online and you have a question in mind, feel free to type it in the comments.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I have a couple of questions. The first one is that I see you have a little installation there, so I would love to hear more about it. And the second one is I'm really enjoying this panel because you're all speaking from your personal experience from transitioning from your background to what is XR and what you're pursuing right now in your graduate programs. And I think that's extremely valuable. You're all giving advice from your experience. And I would love to hear from each one of you, what is the area or what is what you have enjoyed the most when transitioning from flat media to XR? And if you can give examples of cool projects that you've done, that would be super interesting as well. Thank you.
Faith, do you want to start explaining the installation?
Yeah, I can talk about the little setup we have here. Uh, Basically, just like, reflect, like when we were making this panel, when we were putting it together, I just like really started thinking about like kind of like the past of, this space, how like kind of where we started and where we're heading. And like it just reminded me of this TV that, many people my age had when they were kids, or like if you had a TV in the early 2000s, it was probably something like this. And just seeing how we've gone from analog to digital. So the content on the screen is just like everything from past interpretations of what VR would look like in the future. Like there's a lot of older movies on here or games that kind of show what they kind of thought, VR could be. And there's also like clips in there about how VR looked in the 90s, and it's actually like kind of crazy in a cool way. So yeah, I basically just wanted to pay homage to that, analog. We've started analog, we've gone digital, and yeah, that's about the display. And I'm sorry, what was the second part of the question?
What do you enjoy the most?
Oh, enjoy the most. Yeah, I very much enjoy how these softwares can allow you to be a one-man band a little bit, because it's a little bit contradictory to what Elizabeth said earlier about collaboration. Just because in film, you have someone who's DPing, they're recording the footage, the producers are putting together the locations, all that stuff, and then it all gets sent to me to be put together as an editor. So I don't get any real like say in like kind of like shots and all that, which is fine. That's part of the process. It's like how it is in film. But it was just it's been really nice for me to be able to be the cinematographer, the director, the producer, and editor all in one, because everything is in one software, or like one project on a computer.
So as myself, like as I talked, like I have done some pre-production as like a set design and production stuff when I started this career, but it was typical like physical set, live shooting, and everything. But the most I would say memorable or enjoyable projects that I have done in this XR is a virtual production. It's the same as a film production, but you will have a big LED screen where you can render the environment that you have made on Unreal Engine. You can just render it. That will be your background, and you can just do a live shooting in front of that screen. So it's the same as a film production, but it's different because it's less time consuming, more intuitive, more immersive. So I think for me that is the best thing that XR has given to me.
So I want to like say like when I enjoy how I enjoy to like shift to the 3D. So I would say, as I was mentioned, like the graphic design usually do the mocap, and it's just 2D to 2D. We try to fade all the pictures just for view, but in some way like sometimes the people want to see like what if the design put into like the future, how they looks on the back, how the shadow was like change like the atmosphere, and that's the usually the people want to see like they don't want to see different aspect like how those to change the product's position. So and that's some project I was doing like the can design, Fuchan design, or I used the 3D mesh first and put the graphic onto to mocap for real, and just is brought to the real life XR stuff and show to client. I think that's the most of the one thing when I was shift to the 3D, I feel like more surprised from that.
We're talking about projects, right? That we've done, or
You can talk about.
sure. Okay. So the mix actually has given a lot of opportunities for XR projects. We have a lot of studios here for XR, such as Meteor Studio. I work at NextLab. There's a lot of XR-related studios here. We also have really cool places such as Dreamscape. So for one of my classes, one of Anna's classes, we got to develop for immersive experience for Dreamscape, which was really cool to like put on the screen. I also got to work on a project with a NASA astronaut, actually with Chris over there. Both of us were doing sort of like 3D modeling, developing for immersive Earthlight experience, which was super cool. And then she also recently reached out to me and asked me to start with her again. So yeah, a lot of cool experiences.
So I think XR technology has like potential to replicate or enhance the real world experiences, and which means we can manipulate the experience. So that's something that makes me move to XR field. And I'm still exploring, but hopefully I can do tangible project in aspects of exploring this potential.
Any other questions?
All right.
Oh, sorry. It's okay.
I would say the thing that I enjoy the most is to being able to work with people from different disciplines, because I also work with a lot of people when I'm designing motion graphics, but it's more like a task that I do it on my own. Sometimes I would have to ask for opinions from people, but people are not really teaching you how to do it. You kind of have to figure it out by yourself. But when I'm designing in extended reality, it requires a lot more collaboration. For example, I was working on one project in Unreal Engine. I was designing the environment, and I had to talk to the person who is going to be responsible on the blueprints. And every time I talk to people from different roles, I learn things really quickly, and that's why I really enjoy like the collaboration part in extended reality. Any more questions?
We have one from our social media Instagram chat from @okken.media. What is flat media and XR? I believe they joined a little bit after you all touched base on that.
Okay, so flat media, we're referring to media like photography, films, animation, or like graphic design. It is formats that operate in 2D, constrained to a screen or a paper or anything on a flat surface. I would like to point out that we use the term flat media here intentionally, just to have a contrast with the nature of extended reality. We're not using the term traditional media because it can suggest like older or pre-digital formats like the TV. It's like, you know, how it's not interacting, or like people are not able to explore freely in the environment. So we're using the term flat media here just to emphasize the contrast with it. And then as for extended reality, it is an umbrella term for some immersive technologies. It includes virtual reality. You can see some VR headsets right here. And augmented reality, usually we use a device and point at something, and then graphics or videos are going to pop up on your phone. And also mixed reality, which we didn't really focus that much in our discussion. I hope that explains the terms. Any more questions? Thank you all for the thoughtful questions. I would also like to thank our panelists for sharing their insights and experiences with us today. Transitioning from flat media to extended reality is a dynamic and evolving journey with lots of room for innovation and growth. I hope today's discussion has been inspiring and helpful for everyone here as they think about their own projects. Thank you all, and don't forget to check out next week's panel on sound and immersive experiences.